All right, guys, it's going to get very pink here in a little bit. And I'm talking about a floral note that I think is the perfect spring floral note. And we're talking about a fantasy note, so it can't be extracted. So they have to recreate it utilizing different floral notes to combine it to make it smell like what the flower should be smelling like. Because personally, I've smelled peony, which is what we're talking about, in fragrances, and I've actually smelled the actual flower. They smell nothing alike, similar to ambergris. But we are talking about peony today. I've got 15 fragrances that feature peony as a flower. If you want to find out what the fragrances are, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sebastian talking to you about peony. Are you a fan of this note? Have you discovered it in fragrances? If you like some of the most popular fragrances out there in the world of perfumery, niche, mostly niche, you're going to probably know what peony smells like. Peony is also mixed with a lot of notes that I really enjoy, most importantly musks, spices, and I think for me the one I see most come up is rose and peony together. And again, it's a fantasy note. I guess you can't really extract the peony as a flower, so you have to recreate it, and it fits somewhere in between rose and lily of the valley when after it's recreated. But as I was saying, I bought peony flowers myself from various places that sell them when it's peony season. And when you smell the flowers themselves, there is a really funky smell inside. It doesn't really have a real gorgeous smell that I really enjoy in flowers. Like, let's say Lily of the Valley. Well, Lily of the Valley is also a fantasy note. You can't really extract it. But, let's say example like lilacs or hyacinth or rose or tuberose or jasmine. Those just really gorgeous, but actually peony is a bit animalic and indolic smelling. And mostly that's all you get, not actually a gorgeous floral smell. Anyway, as I said, I've got 15 fragrances here today, focusing on the peony note. We're going to start off with the House of Parfums de Marly, which is probably the most popular peony fragrance out there, and probably the most popular Parfum de Marly fragrance. This is DELINA. And I told you it's going to get really pink today. We've got a lot of fragrances here today that are coming in pink or pinkish bottles. And if you don't know DELINA, you probably haven't really focused on the Parfums de Marly house, because as I said, this is the most popular. It's created by Canton Biche. This is Turkish rose with lychee, rhubarb, peony, lily of the valley, cashmere wood, musk, and vanilla. So it's a fruity floral fragrance. It has some warmth under there, but up top it's very rosy and also fruity. You get it from the lychee and the rhubarb. And of course, they're mixing it with the peony note to accentuate the rosiness and also to accentuate the lily of the valley, as I was saying, because it fits somewhere in between rose and lily of the valley, the peony note. Because when you smell it in fragrances, there's a tartness, and I find the tartness in lily of the valley, and it's this sweetness of the rose, so it's a nice balance. And I think Parfums de Marly's DELINA is definitely a great example of a peony-focused fragrance. But moving on to the house of Louis Vuitton, it's ATTRAPE-REVES, this one right here. So when this first came out, I wasn't a big fan of. It's going on me quite a bit. And I think it's the combination of the floral notes with the cacao note. And it's almost like a dusting of cacao on the floral notes. Lots of peony here with Turkish rose. Once again, we've got lychee fruit. We've got ginger, patchouli, and bergamot. I'm going to say it acts a little bit like Coco Mademoiselle from the House of Chanel, but very distant from it. It's giving me that kind of a vibe because of the patchouli there, but up top it's very floral and a bit gourmand from the cacao note. I was going to smell these on camera to let you know a little bit more about the fragrances, because some of the fragrances I know more about than the others. But let me go ahead and start with DELINA real quickly. What I like about DELINA, I think the rhubarb and lychee is a bit on the tart side. It nicely contrasts with the tartness of the peony note, which, as I was saying, it's the combo of roses and lily of the valley. I find it to be quite gorgeous. There's a bit of a milky undertone there as well. And then with ATTRAPE-REVES, I like the combination of the floral notes. I'm not sure why this rubbed me the wrong way at first. I don't know. I got something weird when I was smelling it, but it's grown on me. Maybe it was a combination of the flowers and the cacao that's in here with the earthiness of the patchouli. But yeah, it's quite gorgeous. It actually tones down the floral touches of the peony and the Turkish rose in here. But there is some zing and spice, but of course the earthiness of the patchouli. It does act, as I was saying, a bit like Coco Mademoiselle, but not identical. We're moving on to the house of SISLEY. This is IZIA. And, you know, we've got a lot of fragrances that are kind of in this fruity floral kind of direction. This one for me is more fresh, citrusy, take on floral notes rather than a fruity floral because I don't get much fruitiness. But I feel like the peony in here and the rose together do create a slight fruitiness, but I wouldn't call this a fruity floral fragrance. But I think this is a very underrated house, SISLEY. They have great skincare products, and I think their fragrances are great too. IZIA is so fresh and dewy. And that's another thing. It's a trademark of peony. There's a dewy, watery effect happening with peony notes and fragrances. And it's so prominent on this fragrance and this fragrance. And you actually experience it. Just imagine like rained on roses and peony. You're smelling the watery, ozonic touch on top of the gorgeous flowers. It's so pretty. SISLEY's IZIA is so pretty, and they have flankers in this series as well. If you haven't tried it, do try it. But moving on to the house of Creed, it's CARMINA. In the end, it's a cherry focused fragrance, but they've combined the cherry with rose and also peony here. So you've got a very floral edge with the fruitiness. So I would call this a fruity floral once again, because you've got the combination of fruits and flowers. But I think they did a great job here. I think CARMINA is quite nicely done. I also think I get a little bit of the effect of DELINA. This might be a competitor for DELINA. I think that's kind of sort of what Creed might have been going for. But I think they have another fragrance that just came out that might be going more in that direction. But this is black cherries, May rose, peony, musk, amber, myrrh, frankincense, violet, saffron, pink pepper, and cashmere wood. So what I also get from this one, I get a mulled wine effect. And so there's a kind of a boiled, fruity wine effect happening with some warm under there. Like there's a warmth under there. Like just imagine if you've ever had mulled wine, the spices that are, you know, boiled with the wine, it's giving me that kind of an effect. But still very floral in the end, but more of not as much of a fresh experience compared to the IZIA. This is a lot warmer. Then we're moving on to the house of Quinto Canto or VCanto. It's RICINA. RICINA. This is a sister house to Tiziana Terenzi. And it's a peony bomb, but there's a lot going on. It's very complex. The fragrances of these houses, Quinto Canto, Tiziana Terenzi, they utilize a lot of ingredients. They're also extracted parfums, so they're quite intense fragrances. But this one features notes of peony, orange blossom, red plums, bergamot, peach, oakmoss, iris, oud, and jasmine. Yeah, the oud comes in, but the oud is not so strong. You will notice it though. But once again, this is definitely a fruity floral fragrance. Very substantial with a little bit of edge when it's drying down. But for me, the peony is so super strong here. Like it really stands out. It's like the star, and everything that is there, the additional notes are kind of supporting the peony or playing around it. But the king of the fragrance, the one that's running the show, is the peony, because you totally experience that rosiness, but also that kind of tart, kind of slight astringent green lily of the valley note. So that's kind of very key for me with the note of peony, especially this fantasy note. Again, I buy peony flowers. They don't smell anything like what I smell in fragrances as far as peony goes. But RICINA is so complex and intense. I like the depth that's in there, and I like the combo of the fruits and the flowers together, and making for a really great fruity floral fragrance. The Tiziana house, I was going to say Tiziana Terenzi, but I meant to say Paolo Terenzi, who's the perfumer of these fragrances. They do a lot of fruity floral fragrances, and I think RICINA is definitely a solid fruity floral fragrance focusing on the peony note. Then we're going to the house of ORMONDE. This is LEVANT, this one right here. So LEVANT does give me familiar feelings. It does remind me a little bit of DELINA. It also reminds me a little bit of Fleur Narcotique, so it's kind of in that ballpark. But it features lots of orange blossom with lots of peony here. These are running the show. It's a great contrast between those two notes. Along with those notes, you've got mandarin, musk, tangelo, bergamot, rose petals, jasmine, lily of the valley, cedarwood, and amber. If you caught my video with Linda of Ormonde Jane, she was speaking about Levant. Levant is definitely one of the more popular fragrances from the house of Ormonde Jane, and really gorgeous. It does have that DNA of Ormonde Jane. I really love that house's DNA, but you do get the familiarity with something DELINA-esque, but more Fleur Narcotique. But I think it's the way the notes are combined together to create that. So even though this has the trademark signature DNA of Ormonde Jane, you get that familiar feeling or familiar smell of something like Fleur Narcotique. Even something like Van Cleef & Arpels Neroli Amara, which is also created by Quantum Biche. So maybe he secretly did this fragrance. I actually really love the way Levant smells. Let me know if you're familiar with it. And speaking of fragrances that are created by Givaudan perfumers, this is Ex Nihilo's Lust in Paradise. So I really, really love the way the fragrances of Ex Nihilo smell, but I feel like they're overpriced. And also, they don't last as long. That's like two negatives going against it. But for me, I think some of their fragrances are just gorgeously created. For example, Lust in Paradise is so, so beautiful. It takes me to a very breezy, not so warm island tropical setting. It's white peony, lychee, musk, white cedarwood, pink pepper, and amber. And yeah, Fleur Narcotique, created by a Givaudan perfumer. And I can't remember who did this one. Is it Louise Turner? This is also created by a Givaudan perfumer. And so these perfumers utilize the same ingredients because they're working in this firm, this company, and they have access to all the ingredients. So sometimes the fragrances do start smelling similar because they're using similar ingredients. And this one, it's got this kind of like young fruit smell. So young fruit meaning it's not so ripe, it's not so juicy, it's not so fragrant. So there's a young quality about it. It's a bit green, but the peony has this tartness. It's so good. It really, really great. It transports me, like I said, to a tropical setting that's not too hot. I don't know if there is such a thing because tropical places tend to get really hot and humid, but there's a lot of breeze, like a sea breeze, and it's in the afternoon, maybe evening, and it's cooled off. But there's all kinds of lush tropical fruits and things like that here with this fragrance. So that is Lust in Paradise from the house of Ex Nihilo. Let me know if you're familiar with that. Then we're going to the house of Kayali. It's Fleur Majesty Rose Royale 31. So this is brand spanking new. I'm not too familiar with it. I'm going to give you my thoughts about it. This is featuring notes of mandarin orange, juicy pear, luscious peach, magnolia, peony, rose, centifolia, violet wood, dry vetiver, sweet vanilla, praline, clean musk, ambrox, super. Lots going on in this fragrance. And I could smell it. When I first smelled it, there was a candy effect happening. But when I put my nose on it, the peony really, really is prominent along with the rose. And as I was mentioning earlier, peony and rose together, I see them quite frequently together in the notes breakdown and fragrances. I also, as I said, find peony to be a great spring floral, especially when we still have rain out there and you get that dewiness on top of the flowers. I love that. I just usually love to photograph flowers that have been rained on because the water drops look so beautiful on photos. And every time I smell a fragrance like this, it gives me that kind of an idea. Like fragrances that the flowers that have just been rained on. Because you get that here. It's kind of luscious. It's juicy. It's a fruity floral once again. It does have the DNA of KLE. There's some sweetness and candied effect happening. But in the end, it's giving me spring floral vibes to the max with the Fleur Majesty Rose Royale 31. Let me know if you're familiar with that. Up next, going to the house of Gucci, it's Tears from the Moon. Are you guys familiar with this one? I really like the way this fragrance smells, but I feel like it's underwhelming with its strength. And this is the negativity that I have with this collection of fragrances, especially since now they're selling for $400 a bottle. But the way the fragrance smells is so gorgeous. It's Lily of the Valley, White Peony, Stephanotis, which is a blend of jasmine and lilies together for a sweet-smelling floral note. But it gives me the idea of spring to the max because both the peony and also the Lily of the Valley I associate with a spring smell, whereas the Lily of the Valley is very green. The Peony is a toss-up between the greenness and also it's kind of like floral qualities, the red flowers and the roses and things like that, or rosiness is what I should say. It's this kind of combo, so giving me very spring vibes, and that stephanotis note is a floral, but also some slight fruitiness is hidden in here because it does smell a bit sweet, but still I'm getting stems and things like that. But sadly, this collection, especially when it comes to the floral notes, the oud, the amber, those are pretty intense, even though I want them to be more intense. When it comes to this one, it's so light and fragile for me. I just wish it was a bit more potent. Just the experience. But as a smell, Tears from the Moon is awesome. Let me know if you get that same experience with the Alchemist Garden collection from the House of Gucci. But moving on to the House of Tom Ford is Rose the Sheen. This one right here. Are you guys familiar with this one? So this one came out with a trio of fragrances. It's the Rose Garden collection. I think it's the Rose de Russie, which just got redone as Rose Exposed, and then there's the Rose d'Amalfi, which is my favorite. But this one's totally utilizing the peony. It's a yellow peony note with rose, cistus, and myrrh. So basically, eventually the fragrance goes down to an amber when it's drying down. So it's all very fresh and floral up top, but very ambery and resinous in the dry down. I think it's got depth. So this one definitely has depth. It's, like I said, the very fresh qualities of that rose up top with its yellow, kind of dewy experience with the yellow peony. But I think the ambery notes do dominate quite a bit and kind of try and take over the floral notes that are up top and in the heart notes. I think Rose d'Amalfi is still my favorite, but if you want the idea of the peony note, definitely check out Rose the Sheen from the House of Tom Ford. And then we've got fragrance from the House of Ella K. It's Memoir de Dizaine In. So this is a fragrance created by Sonia Constant, who's also a Givaudan perfumer. And again, with this fragrance, including the Lust in Paradise, they're both Givaudan perfumers. Then, of course, I'll also mention DELINA, who is Quantum Biche, who's also a Givaudan perfumer. You'll kind of see some similarities with the smells. This one does remind me a little bit of a DELINA style or Fleur Narcotique style fragrance, but it's gorgeously done with the perfumer Sonia Constant. But this is featuring notes of rose, peony, tea, plums, tangerines, bergamot, kumquat, lime, white musk, ambroxan. And we've got some vanilla, violets, benzoin, nutmeg, and hedione, and ISOE super. But beautiful, beautiful. There is definitely an ambroxan base here. You'll really notice it. I mentioned once before I had a sniff session client come in here. She was very sensitive to the note of ambroxan, didn't care for it. And even though they don't list the note of ambroxan, you can totally tell. And this one is heavy with the ambroxan in the base, and they do mention it, but it's giving me that Lust in Paradise vibe a lot. So if you're into the idea of ambroxan, you check this one out, especially if you like something like Lust in Paradise, because I'm getting that kind of unripened young fruits experience. It's a fruity floral once again, but so gorgeously done, so beautiful. I think Sonia Constant does some great work. That is Memoir de Dizaine In. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. Then we're going to the House of Art Meets Art, a new house I haven't spoken about on the channel before. This is Like a Virgin. Are you guys familiar with this one? I think this is created by Alberto Morillas. It's freesia, peony, rose, musk, aquatic notes, and amber. This is another music-inspired house. There's several out there on the market now, and I haven't spoken about this one, but I'm going to start talking about their fragrances. I discovered them at Printemps in Paris for the first time, like 3 years ago. But this is once again really fruity and very fresh and floral. Lots of freshness here. It's like a spring fragrance explosion with spring flowers, I should say. So there's a freshness with the aquatic notes and also some depth with the amber and the dry down. So it's a great composition, and I feel like the name Like a Virgin, inspired by that Madonna song, fits appropriately for this one because the flowers and, of course, the musk that's in here also. It's just very fresh and breezy and floral, just with a little bit of depth in the base from the amber. So that is Art Meets Art, Like a Virgin. All right, we're going to the House of Perroy next. This is Azure Blush. So this is totally reminiscent of something like the fragrance DELINA. Of course, the bottle color as well. but it's a much less expensive fragrance. So if you're looking for an alternative, definitely check this one out. This is Peony, Lychee, and Rhubarb. So it's got that kind of tart bitterness with the rhubarb note, fruitiness from the lychee, and of course the peony is the combo of the rose and the lily of the valley, because you get that tartness here quite a bit. But it'll totally remind you of DELINA, but not so milky, because I get that kind of creamy milky effect in the dry down with DELINA. I don't get it here. There's definitely, like, it's not mentioned. I think I'm getting some ambroxan type, amber woody molecule type notes in the base, musks. So to give it strength, but it's totally giving me DELINA vibes. This is very inexpensive also. It's like 150 for 100 ml. Check it out if you're not familiar with that. Then go into the house of Bon Parfumeur. This is 802 Pivoine Lotus Bamboo. So they list the 3 key notes in the name for Bon Parfumeur's fragrances. Pivoine is peony, lotus, lotus flower. Bamboo is, of course, bamboo. So it's notes of peony, freesia, lotus flower, blackcurrant, bamboo, violet leaves, musk, ambrette, and amber. This is fresh and watery. Lots of ozonic watery touches here, musky as well, but peony is prominent. It smells like a spring pond with growth of like ivy and greenery and flowers around it. It's so fresh, so fresh and dewy. Very, very watery and green. I get a green quality with this one and a slight tartness in there as well, but really gorgeous. I'm quite impressed with a lot of the fragrances of Bon Parfumeur. But we're gonna end the video with this fragrance from the house of Juicebox. It's Carioca Heart. So this is a fruity floral fragrance, once again, also very warm and spicy, created by Julien Rescanet, who also created my fragrance collaboration, which is 54. But Carioca Heart is gorgeous. It's a warm, spicy, fruity floral inspired by, I believe, bossa nova music from Brazil. But as soon as you smell it, it's just got the peony flower in there, and it's got the warm spices, the fruits of the mango and pineapple, and there's a bit of a amber woody base along with a mixture of warm spices. Really gorgeous fragrance. If you haven't tried it, try it. It's Carioca Heart featuring peony. But the way the peony works in that one, it's pretty hidden with a lot of the other notes, but when you focus on it, you'll really pick out the peony note in that as well. Anyway, that's all the fragrances I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts on peony as a flower. Do you enjoy this flower? Do you have a favorite peony fragrance? Any of these your favorite? If you're curious to try these, definitely try them and see if you are ending up going to enjoy the fragrances featuring peony. Either way, thanks so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please do list below. Please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. All right, we've got one bonus option here, and it's cheapy. Again, this is Banana Republic's Peony and Peppercorn. So yeah, peony flower does work really nicely with spices. They blend beautifully together because it's floral and it's got the greenness there from that kind of a lily of the valley-like effect. So it's a bit tart, it's a bit like a rose. And then, of course, you mix it with a black pepper spice. It creates this really great combo. It's got room for it for these kinds of notes. But this is pink pepper, pink peony, rose, bergamot, musk, plums, cashmere wood. But a gorgeous, very dewy, watery effect here with the peony. And the pepper spice is quite nice. But I don't think the pepper spice is too sharp. It's really nicely blended with the muskiness of the cashmere. It doesn't stand out the pepperiness. Sometimes pepper note really does stand out and, you know, make it really like sharp, but this one's beautifully blended together. And it's a great cheapie, I think. And that is peony and peppercorn is what I should say. And as I said, it's getting really pink in here. And, you know, we had a lot of pink bottles in this video, as you can see. But either way, thanks so much for watching today. Stay tuned for another video soon. Bye-bye.